that never end. Forever I will praise. To think that the universe could not withhold your glory. You choose to live in me. I'm so amazed. And I worship you, Lord. My life in you restored. Here is my heart, make it your sanctuary. For nobody else but Jesus, only you. When my world was in darkness, you spoke your word, night turned into day. Your beauty filled this place. When my world stood in silence, you filled my heart with songs that never end. Forever I will praise. To think that the universe could not withhold your glory. You choose to live in me. I'm so amazed. And I worship you, Lord. My life in you restored. Here is my heart, make it your sanctuary. For nobody else but Jesus, only you. Only you. My heart, make it your sanctuary. For nobody else but Jesus, only you.
Question. Please ask your question.
My question is regarding the Isaiah 9:6. Isaiah 9:6 stated there that an his name shall be called Mighty God, Counselor, Father. So my question is pointing to the everlasting Father. When was Jesus Christ called the everlasting Father?
Okay, to answer you, I will give some background. Jesus Christ, with a wrong understanding, has been called the everlasting Father. With a wrong understanding. Of course, extreme oneness understanding. But the right understanding, much closer, is when he was indwelt by the Father. In the shallow sense, when he was still in the womb of Mary, was covered by the presence of the everlasting Father. So it's vicariously, you could say, because he comes from the Father. But when he was 30 years and he was indwelt by the Spirit of God, that's much closer to say he is the everlasting Father, because he is representing the everlasting Father. As I've said a while ago, John 14:9, if ye have seen me, ye have seen the Father. So closer to whom is when the Father indwelt him, and in order to look at the Father, you just look at him. But there is a much more closer application of the verse. The more closer of the verse is what is written in the verse. His name shall be called the mighty God and everlasting Father. So it's no longer about Father manifested himself through him.
Yes.
It is the name Jesus. So it's no longer him. It's no longer the baby, the child, the son. It is the name of the child. The name that he carried, applicable even when he was a child. This does not necessarily apply. He is already 30 years old. He was indwelt. He was manifested through him. But even though Christ was still a child, the fullness of the Father has not yet indwelt him, manifested through him, but only outwardly. His name, if you have revelation, but later in his ministry, his name shall be called, because there were many Jesus or Joshua or Yeshua in those times. I say Jesus because that's our pronunciation. I said Joshua because that's an English rendering of Yeshua. Jesus comes from the Greek. But they're all the same. In the time of Christ, before he was born, and even after he was born, there were many people named Yeshua, Joshua, or Jesus. Okay? Now, but none have the revelation that the name Jesus would be, Joshua, Yeshua, would be the name that will be adopted by God. None had that understanding. What name do they understand that comes closest to the name of God, to the name of the Father? Yahuwah, Yahweh, Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Jehovah. That's the closest name they can call upon the Lord. And once a year, they mention that name as though it's some kind of supernatural, Kabbalistic, anointed name in pronunciation. Of course, the spirit of pronunciation is from the Jews. That's why they say language of. There were many people named that Jesus, but it will take a revelation that God would use that name. That's why it's written. That's why it was written, His name shall be called, future tense. When He was born, yet called that His name was not yet understood as the name of the Father. When He was already a son, it doesn't necessarily they've already understood it that way. When He was a baby, potentially that name will be future revealed as a comforter, overcomer, mighty God, Prince of Father. Revelation that the name of the Father is also this detail. They look upon Yahweh, Jehovah, in reverence. They speak with reverence. They the Lord always.
The Lord.
Instead of saying they substitute. That's why in your correct when you see
Yes.
because in the Masoretic text they read it as Adonai. So they do not read it as common noun, a common. You notice in the Bible, there is an article the Lord.
The Lord.
So there are times this tetragrammaton is not used as a name but as a title. That's why they call it Adonai, the Lord. But there are a few times it will be used as a name. So in the Old Testament Bible, Jehovah is rendered as a name. By my name, Jehovah was I not. Now, Jehovah's claim is a. Jehovah's Witnesses claim it is a corruption. Why? Because the we should make a new Bible, the New World Translation. So instead of saying the Lord, Adonai, they say Jehovah. It is also similar to today's Good News Bible. In the Good News Bible, they substitute it Yahweh. Now, in the Good News Bible, grave error. They lost the article the. In Hebrew, it's key. So, I just look it up. In the Bible, when the tetragrammaton is mentioned, it is not mentioned as a name, as a title. So when this tetragrammaton was read as Adonai.
I have a question.
Let me finish this. So the problem with the Good News Bible and the Jehovah's Witness Bible, New World Translation, the mentioning of the name Jehovah or Yahweh has been so commonplace as though the name is just your brother, householder beside you, like in your God is already be And Yahweh and Jehovah is an exalted name. But Jesus is a common name among Israelites. If that is a common name, they will never notice. This is God. I don't know. This is just my brother. He's just one of us. It's just, but herein lies the mystery that God could be one of us through His Son. So we're not talking God. We're talking of His name. So people as common name of among men, they never realized it was God. God could use that common name. God could use a common name like any other people using that name. And some Messianics reject the name Jesus because it should not be a common name. So, Brother Lad, he said, how could God use a common name? Because He's exalted from on high. He's high above. He is above us. But He can be with us, among us. Brother Lad, there's one to hear more. But they never understood Jesus, Yeshua, Joshua is a common name that could be used by God. Let me say, God could ask. Inside is glorified, they also become gods. Also G to capital letter G, like Angelophany, Christophany to Theophany, is the same thing. The bride church, everyone will become gods representing God Himself in the capital letter G. It's a great mystery, but it stems from the name. The name, the new name is a new understanding of that name, is that a common person could be like God. God could be just like beside you. If you are a mature 1 John 3:9, Christophany, Theophany, even though you're just Angelophany, in the cell grouping, when you are speaking the words of God, it is as though someone else is seeing God Himself. He is seeing Christ in you. He is seeing God in you. If Christ could be seen in you, the next step is God could be seen in you. So that mystery comes from the name. The name Joshua has been used by many men. But God purposely used the name Jesus as the name, His name. John 17:6. He wants the Son to be the one who will declare His name. So His complete name is Jesus, Joshua, Yeshua, not just Yahweh, Jehovah, or Yahweh. It's not. It is an incomplete name in the Old Testament. The error of the New World Translation and Good News Bible is they have already used that name so common to the point no more reverence in it. But they don't know the true common name, which should be Jesus in the New Testament. So that is the mystery, the progressive revelation of the name. Okay, just start asking your question.
So my question is, I have two questions. Then the one is, why God allow the different name from YHWH compounded or transliterated by Yahweh, Yehovah, Yahweh, Baui, Yahuwah?
I wish to...
Why God allow His name to be confounded or transliterated in different pronunciation? We know that it involves salvation. Why God allowed these things to happen in the era of revealing His word?
Before I answer you, have you noticed your mistake in terminology? You have not. Hello?
Pronunciation?
Yes. So have you noticed that mistake? You use in your question, Have you noticed what you said?
No, I am asking because there is this observation is existed. There are groups that they believe Yahweh. There are groups that
So what?
Jehovah. There are groups that believe Yahweh, Yahweh. And why God allowed these things to happen? That's my point of vision.
So do you remember your terminology that was wrong? Because the answer is closer to that. Do you remember what you said a while ago that was wrong? Why did God allow these different different
why
what?
God allowed this
Different what? Continue my sentence. Different what?
different pronunciation or different name?
That's what you use.
Yeah.
Why did God allow these different names?
Uh,
It is just later you wish to switch to the word pronunciation. But I wish to point out, here I am recording this. You use the word different names.
okay.
And the reason I wish to point that out emphatically is that is the common error of everyone, almost everyone. Even our group, even those in our group. When they use a terminology, they use name instead of pronunciation. There's a big difference when you say different names and different pronunciation. When you use the word different names, you could easily be refuted from, but because the scripture says there's one name, glorify his name. So if you substitute the word name for pronunciation, you could easily be refuted.
Or what?
Okay, let me repeat what I said a while ago. The mistake of many, they substitute the word name for pronunciation. That is why a while ago, after you use that word name, you quickly switch to pronunciation. Because you have some idea on that. But you forgot about it. That's why you accidentally use the word name. So this is what I will put on recording to explain it. If it is translated pronunciations different name, biblically it could be proven. Because we should not make the gross mistake of misusing the word name to mean pronunciation. Just because you spelled it differently, just because you pronounced it differently, it's a different name. That is the simple deception of the sacred pronunciation believers. Those who are claiming to be sacred name, it's actually sacred pronunciation. It's an oration or some kind of enchantment that chantings for mysticism, some mystical chantings like Kabbalah or what. So this name, your question, why was it allowed by God to be different names? Correction, different transliteration. There's nothing wrong with different transliterations. The beginning why there was a different transliteration is this. The reason there are different transliterations is God tongues of men. God diversified the tech man. Because true enough, it is true, there is power in mystical enchantings or pronunciations. But that power was not yet for man. Man has still to grow. this growth before God restores its original language. So in Babel, when they were building a tower, they were building a portal toward heaven, toward another dimension, towards the. So their language was one, and it was still the language of heaven. The same language as Adam, the same language of the angels. The language of North Korea and South Korea are the same. The language of the fallen angels, same language. They communicate with each other in the same language. So there's power in that language. So that is what God is protecting man in the Tower of Babel from. If God had not intervened, man would have already fallen into the New World Order under Nimrod, under the devil's kingdom. When people spread out because of diversified tongues, when people splintered, disagreed with each other, it is also an instrument of God so that the purest believer would come out. Those could be Berean, to prove all things, to hear what is right from wrong. So, why are there many transliterations? Why are there many pronunciations? It is the fallout, the after effect of different languages, diversified tongues. And there's nothing wrong with diversified tongues. It belongs to God. It does not belong to the devil. Actually, wish to use the unified language. If it's diversified, plan of the devil is delayed. Okay. Next question.
No problem. So there is no problem in different pronunciation because God is the one who diversifies the languages of all men. That's why there are different translate
Of the same name.
YHWH.
Of the same name, yes. Of the same word.
So there is no sin in the sight of God. If we call God in Visayan or Ilocano, there is no. We should not commit sin. If we call God in Amen, in our language, we call that Ginoo or God in English. In Cebuano, Ginoo.
Ginoo is Lord or God.
Lord or God.
Yes.
That's what I mean.
Yes. So that is a common noun.
Mm.
Theos, it's Elohim.
Mm.
Remember, Elohim are also used for pagan deities. Okay.
Mm.
Actually, the Tetragrammaton sometimes are used to pagan deities also. But that's another research that we're not going to tackle right now.
Mm.
But let me ask you, as a Cebuano, you have the word Yawa, right?
Yes, yung Yawa is evil.
But there is no sacred pronunciationist believer who condemn the Cebuano.
Uh-huh.
Even if they use the word langgam. What is langgam in Bisaya?
Yung langgam is
A bird.
ant. Langgam. Ant.
No. Langgam is different there.
No, I mean langgam is ibon here.
Yes, that is what I'm saying. Just because you pronounce differently, it doesn't mean it doesn't mean it. That's the definition of the other language.
Mm-hmm.
So I wish to expose the deception of the sacred name pronunciationists. They use the word sus or horse. So they call Jesus or Jesus as horse. So they claim we are actually calling a horse.
Mm.
Then they go to another language, whether Greek or Roman, they say, or in Latin, they say it's swine. You get the deception there? The deception is, if you pronounce differently, they will interpret it, they would find that will belittle you. But they don't understand when God diversified the tongues. Your pronunciation might be different in meaning to another culture of people. Like langgam in Tagalog and in Bisaya. You see? Like Yawa. To the Hebrews, that could be Yahweh. You get the picture? Yahweh. Okay? But to Cebuanos, that is the devil. That is the deception. Have you encountered in Facebook or maybe heard from those who left us that Jesus or Jesus is horse? Have you heard of that?
Your voice is so not clear.
Okay, let me repeat. Have you heard of the explanation that Jesus means horse? Have you heard of the reasoning of others that you should not pronounce Jesus or Jesus because you're calling a horse? Have you heard of that reasoning?
The first time I hear that source is right, but now the first time.
Sus as swine is in another language. You get the picture? Sus as horse is in Hebrew. So the deception of the sacred name pronunciationist is, if you mention in your own language this pronunciation, so the deception of this sacred name pronunciationist, if you pronounce something in your own language, in your own tongue, they will look for definitions in other language that has a similar pronunciation. That is so I asked Richard Moana in Facebook. I asked him, Brother Richard, do you insist upon the Cebuano that langgam is ant rather than a bird? Or you will not insist on them? So he does not wish to answer. So the premise here is this: you cannot insist on someone else of their language. You cannot insist on them that Sus you're calling is a horse, just because in another language it is a horse. In another language it is pronounced, it's a pronunciation for horse. You get the picture? Whatever your language is, God recognizes it. You should not use a cross-cultural language to say you are worshipping a horse. You are following a horse. I'm gonna include the word Baal, Lord. Have you heard of this reasoning? Lord means Baal. You haven't heard of that reasoning?
I read in the Bible, but an reasoning not yet.
Okay. There's a reasoning of the sacred name pronunciation is that when you call Lord, you're calling on Baal. Actually, it was already explained by the group that left us in Manalite, Pastor Roldan, and even he. Have you heard of that? No, the meaning of the Lord is Baal. Haven't you heard them explain it that way? Lad and Roldan and many others in Badaver. Even maybe Pastor Eddie was converted on that. Okay, let me recall to you. Do not call the word Lord. If you call the word Lord, you're calling on Baal. Now, if you look at the dictionary, the word Lord is translated Baal. Now, do you know how to answer that? This is the answer. But do you know their premise already? How they refute the Christians. How they refute. They don't want to use the word Lord. Okay? Now, is there anything wrong to use the word Lord? Are you really calling on Baal when you use the word Lord? Hello? No. How do you prove it? How about in the Baal is Lord? Oh. How do you explain that? Do you know how to explain that? Okay. Okay. This is the answer. Hello? There's a deception in how they try to convert people like Jesus is horse or swine. Why can't they even say it is Zeus? Just because it's pronounced similar, they claim it is that. So that is the wrong way, wrong reasoning, wrong way of trying to tie it up. Okay? Because when God diversified the tongues of men, there are many similar pronunciations but different meanings. Okay? So let's go to the word Lord. The word Lord means master. The word Lord means someone who is above you. Now, why is it the word Baal is translated Lord? The answer is this. That is one language in the Middle East where Baal is used for Lord. You get the picture? It is not from the etymology of the word Lord did not come from Baal. It is an English word. So, there was a time in the Middle East, those Lord, they call Lord, they use the word Baal. In their own language, it's Baal. Not Lord. They use Master. It's like Tagalog word, Panginoon. Why won't the sacred name pronunciationist claim the word Panginoon is Baal? They don't, right? They will not say Master or Panginoon is Baal. They only say word Lord. Because it is they single it out just to deceive those people, the Christians calling Lord. Hello. So I hope they use the word Baal for Lord or Master in the Middle East. But when the English use the word Lord, they're not calling on Baal. They're not calling on a demon or Beelzebub. They're calling on a Master, the Lord Jesus Christ. You see that deception? So it has to be answered. Because they think no one could refute them. So I hope they're open-minded enough to listen to this audio. Anyway, you can share this audio to them. Okay, what else? Do you have any other question?